Hello and welcome to this video and to late Friday night, even though if you saw my book review I said I was going to try and avoid doing these late night videos because my brain doesn't work quite so well, but here we are close to bedtime and I thought I would start this video so that I could explain the plan with that, and then we won't be wasting any time tomorrow, so that will all become clear because my plan is to try and read all 10 of the Puffin Modern Classics collection over the weekend. So I have 10 books to try and complete within 48 hours, which is going to be a feat. So I have attempted once to try and do a 24-hour reading challenge. I'll link that video if you're interested, but spoiler, I didn't manage the 24 hours because I like sleep. But in my defence, I had literally the day before tested negative for COVID, so I was still a little bit sleepy from all of that. But I realised 24 hours is not really doable for me. I like my sleep too much. I also have just general adult things I have to do, so you know, cleaning. I also have this one to walk several times a day, isn't that right, Jeff? Pete will be around, so we'll be seeing him and eating with him and stuff, so but he's got other things on, which is why I'm attempting this weekend. Things like I'm trying to get fit, so I'm going to the gym a bit more and stuff like that. So they're all the sort of things that will, you know, interrupt the hours of reading. But I am hoping, although not expecting, to read all 10 books this weekend. So I got Pete to do a little bit of maths for me because I can't do that kind of thing. So I worked out that within these 10 books we have 2,382 pages to read. So Pete did some maths for me. So assuming that I can read for 12 hours each day, I need to read 100 pages an hour. Now again, I only managed about 500 pages when I did the 24-hour reading video. So to read 2,000 odd over 2 days seems like quite a feat, and quite frankly I've been a little bit lax with my reading. I haven't quite had the attention span to sit and just read. Part of the reason I'm doing this weekend is because it's a weekend I could do it. The other part is to hope that I can get my concentration back and to be able to sit and really focus on reading for a little while. So that's what we're doing. I've organised this box so we go from shortest to longest, and we're going to start with the Velveteen Rabbit, which is about 60 pages long, and then make our way up because, to be quite honest, these are the ones I'm most interested in anyway. So that is the weekend plan. So I'm going to set my alarm for 7:30 tomorrow morning. I will see you then. Good morning. It's just after 8 and I am up, washed, dressed, ready to start the day. First things first, I'm going to take Jeff for a longer walk, just so that then I've also done a bit of movement and done my steps. So we're going to go up to a park. The walk will probably take us just over an hour, so I'll be back here at 9 to probably start reading, although I am going to take my first book with me, which is The Velveteen Rabbit by Margery Williams, just in case I decide to sit on a bench and read it or something. I know nothing about this, I just assume there's a rabbit in it, but it's short, it's the shortest of the lot, it's about 60 pages, so hopefully we can get this one done very quickly, and then we can move on with the rest of the 9 books. It's harder waking up at this time on a Saturday, even though I do this every day for work. It's exactly the same routine, other than the longer walk and the Velveteen Rabbit. But yeah, I struggled with that one. I've sat here to try and read the Velveteen Rabbit. Somebody won't let me, will they? So every time I go for the bag, he thinks I'm getting something useful and fun for him, which I'm not. I was going to read my book here, but we can't. So shall we go home? Shall we go and get your breakfast? Yeah. Come on then. So book 1, The Velveteen Rabbit, is done. This is quite sweet, really. It was written in 1922, which was just interesting to know. And I wonder whether it's part of the basis of Toy Story. So this is all about the Velveteen rabbit who is given as a Christmas present to a little boy. Basically explains how toys become real. I did think it was going to take a very sinister turn at one point, but it didn't. And yeah, just a very quick, easy, short children's book. It's a very easy way to start. But now I need to move on. It's now 10 o'clock. Our walk took a little longer than I expected. So I need to hop straight into book number 2, which is Stuart Little by E.B. White. This is a bit longer, but should still have big text and pictures, so hopefully we can get this one done reasonably quickly. All these books have these like extra bits that have information about the author and the creature and about little tasks and things you can do with each book. I did read it for the Velveteen Rabbit, but I don't know whether I'm going to carry on with the rest of them because time is of the essence. 10 o'clock, let's jump into Stuart Little, which I've watched the film, never read the book. Right, I am only about 2 pages in, but why do they think they're getting a child and not a mouse? That needs to be explained better. Maybe it will be, but everyone seems to be fine that they've got a kid that's a mouse, even though they're expecting a baby. So they're currently doing a boat race on the little boating lake in Central Park, but the way it's been written, because obviously Stuart Little's a mouse, it's like this big sea, so the policeman's just fallen in the lake, and they said, what was the wording? This particular policeman was not only a big heavy man, but he had just eaten a big heavy meal. And the wave he made went curling outward, cresting and billowing, upsetting all manner of small craft, causing every owner of the boat pond to scream with delight and consternation. So there you go. Stuart Little is currently facing a big wave. Also, what is the lifespan of a mouse? Because he's currently about 4. Well, if it's anything like my gerbil, he won't be around for much longer, surely. So I googled it. The lifespan of a mouse. What I can see here is up to 7 years. Guess where we are? One day when he was 7 years old. You're only halfway through the book. He has reached his lifespan, surely. I think this might be a bit farcical. Also, not a lot of story in this, just lots of sort of little bits. Why whenever I do these reading videos does Jeff feel the need to sit on me? Yeah, you. Yeah, you. Also, did they really just dump all the rubbish in the Atlantic Ocean in the 1940s? No wonder the Earth's a bit pants at the moment. Right, book 2, Stuart Little, done. That is an absurd book, really, isn't it? Obviously, I query the fact that they have a mouse as a child in the beginning anyway, which is never really explained. It appears that all animals can talk, although again, never actually explained. And the mouse seems to live forever. There is no storyline running through it. It's very much short stories together. I think that's what it's supposed to have been. I think E.B. White did just write a bunch of short stories. It said at the back here that he started it off for his niece, just to entertain her. So I think he just wrote a bunch of short stories about a mouse who was actually a child. Oh yeah, basically it's a bit farcical. There is no storyline. But there were bits that did make me laugh. More because of probably my own stupid sense of humour and that. But when we're talking about Margery the bird, there was a line that just said she was an almighty bird, and that just made me giggle. I don't know why, but it did. But there we go, that was Stuart Little by A.B. White. Of the two, my least favourite so far. So next, I think, is the one that I want to read most. I've always been intrigued, and I've never read it. It's The Borrowers by Mary Norton. Again, I have seen the film. Bunch of small people steal things from a house, isn't it? But I haven't seen the film in a very long time, so I don't actually remember the story. So I think we're gonna do something useful, like I might do the dusting now before I start this, and then start this one at 12 o'clock. I think we're on target actually as well, which is good. Right, I've fallen behind a little bit. So I read about 30 pages of The Borrowers before we then took Jeff out for his lunchtime walk. And then I'm now going to have some lunch, watch a video, give myself a little break from reading, and then we're going to get back on to The Borrowers. Initially, I like it the best. There seems to be a clear narrative all the way through, and I'm enjoying the sort of, I guess, world building of The Borrowers, although I know a little bit of it. It's interesting to hear more about it. So, very hungry, so time to eat, and then we're going to get back on the Borrowers train. I came for a change of scenery, but I'm finding myself having a few extended blinks. Not because this is a boring book, because I'm not enjoying The Borrowers a lot, but I think it's just the way I'm sat and laying, so I need to rethink my position, I think, and take... Finally finished The Borrowers. It's taken quite a while. It's now 5 o'clock. I found this one. It's the best one I've read. There's like a whole narrative through it. Obviously the borrowers take things from a big house and then they get found out and stuff. I liked that there's this whole hierarchy of borrowers depending on where in the house you live and stuff like that. And I enjoyed the story, but there's no pictures in this one, so it is all text. It's still easier to read because it's still a children's book, but I found, what with having read 2 books already, lunch, all of that, that I just couldn't keep my focus and my momentum with it, so that's why it's taken me so long, despite it only being about a 200-page book. Granted, that's more than I would normally read in a day anyway. I also didn't realise that Mary Norton wrote Bedknobs and Broomsticks, so that's interesting. And maybe one day. Actually, I think my brother might have it, so if you do, Adam, I'd like to borrow that one day. I'm now going to wait for Pete to finish what he's doing before we can take this one for a walk. Yeah, eventually we've got to wait for Pete. And then we'll make dinner. We're having lasagna tonight, so I've actually got to do something with it, so that's going to take some time out of reading too. But I think what I'm going to do is make a start on the next book, which is, I think, Flower Babies by Anne Fine. I like Anne Fine. I've read a few Anne Fine books. I didn't realise that she was in this box of Puffin Modern Classics. So we're going to start that one, see where we get to by the time Pete comes out, and then start on the old dinner. Well, walk the dog, and then start on the old dinner. Should I have known that Anne Fine wrote Mrs. Doubtfire, or Madam Doubtfire as the book's called? Obviously this isn't that one, but it's on the back of this book. Should I have known that? I don't think I did. Anyway, Flower Babies, that's the next portal. That's brilliant. Within the first 20 pages, we have had the most cliched teacher response of "that bell's for me, it's not for you," as the class really want to leave. The teacher said no. Oh jeez, Jeff. Hello, bud. I think I might enjoy this one. As I said before, I like Anne Fine, but it's been a long time since I've read her book, but already I've chuckled a couple of times, not just at that line, a few other things, and I think the characters could be quite good. We're following basically lower set science as they go into the science fair and have to do a child development project on flower babies. So I'm interested to see where this is going to go. We're still waiting for Pete, so shall we try and read another chapter? Mr. Cartwright, the teacher in this book, is so savage. He's literally just told a kid when they were giving out the flower babies, if every parent who had a baby who was a bit lacking sent it back, this classroom would be practically empty. Savage, but I love it. It's now 8:15 and somebody distracted me.
With food?
I mean, you came through at 6:15, it's now 8:15.
Yeah, you read while I was cooking.
Not really, you're on the phone, it distracted me.
Get back to reading then.
That's my plan. Yeah, so why does that man never wear a shirt? Why?
But he's just looking at naked people across there.
He's not naked, he's just not wearing a shirt, and he never wears a shirt. Yeah, so he came through late. We took the dog for a walk. Lasagna, turns out it takes ages to make, because I always forget about the cooking time. It's now 8:15. And I need to get back to reading. I think this book's set in Coventry. So it mentions Fozil Road, which is a road in Coventry, but I've just done a Google search, and it does appear to be only Coventry that has a Fozil Road. So I think it might be in Coventry, this book. Right, that's 4 down, and I think oh dear, I think this one's my favourite. There was lots of moments in it that made me laugh. Mr. Cartwright, as I said, is a savage teacher. I'm not surprised if it is set in Coventry because, as I said earlier, these things have like a little timeline about the author and how they came up with the story and stuff like that. And Fine went to Warwick University and lived in Coventry for a bit, so I think I'm right in that thought. Also, those bits at the end are actually really interesting. They, as I said, they give you an idea of the author, and it looks like most of these ones, or at least the 4 books that I've read, they've been nominated for the Carnegie, what's the thingy? The Carnegie Medal. Am I pronouncing that right? I don't know. I've heard of it, but I'm not really sure what it is. But as I say, I think all 4 of the books that I've currently read have been nominated for that, so I'm wondering if this whole box is a Carnegie Medal award-winning books kind of thing. So it is currently like 10:30, so I've been doing this now for about 13 hours. As I said, I'm going over the 2 days. I had hoped to be a little bit further. I've currently read about 520 pages, which is not the 1,000 odd that I was supposed to read today. So finishing 6 books tomorrow doesn't seem likely, particularly as I've got a little bit more to do because I didn't do the bathrooms today, so I still need to clean those, which is a longer job. I am also going to the gym for about an hour probably, and I tend to talk to my family on a Sunday, so that will take some time as well. But Pete is out tomorrow, so there's less of that, I guess. So what I think I'm going to do is get myself ready for bed, because I am quite sleepy. I'm not sure, will I set an alarm today? I don't know. If I've already sort of given up on reading it all, maybe I'll just let myself sleep because it is the weekend, and hope that I can get maybe 2 more books read tomorrow, so that would be 6 out of 10, which I think would be alright. But I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to get myself ready for bed. I'm going to take the next book in with me, which is Gobbolino, the Witch's Cat by Ursula Moray Williams, which I have never heard of. I have no idea what, obviously it's about a cat, but I have no idea what it's about. I've never even heard of the book before, so I'm going to take that in with me. I'll give it a start, see how far I get, maybe read a couple of chapters, and then probably head to sleep.
The next day.
Right, it's the next day. It's like 5 to 11. As you can see, I am red as a tomato, because this morning, as we already know, I'm not going to make the 10 books, and I've kind of accepted that. So I let myself have a little bit of a lie-in. It is the weekend. I do have a busy week at work next week, so I thought that's needed. walked his little one, and then obviously I've been to the gym and ran 5k this morning, so we've crossed those things off. So while I'm going to sit here and drink a load of water and recoup, I'm going to carry on with Gobbolina the Witch's Cat, which I read about 30 pages of last night before I went to sleep, and harsh. So Gobbolina, the cat on the front of this book here, was born with blue eyes and a white foot, and wants to be a kitchen cat rather than a witch's cat. But because he's not all black, he can't be a witch's cat, so his mum, his sister and the witch that they were with just abandoned him. I have enjoyed the first 30 pages, it's been relatively easy, and we've got pictures back, which is nice. So I'm going to sit and read some of this and drink a lot of water, and then I'm going to need to go and have a shower. Because, quite frankly, you can see how much I'm sweating. And you keep trying to lick me in my sweatiness. While I'm here, and while I remember, there are a few things about flower babies I didn't mention. So, flower babies, as I said, all about the science project, blah 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 blah. But there's also this whole feed about one of the character's dad left when he was 6 weeks old, and it was sort of him coming to terms with all of that. So, with all of these newer children's books, because that was written in the 90s, and it's probably the most modern of all of these books I'm going to read. There's obviously, you know, like Jacqueline Wilson, there's always a deeper theme in it as well. Also, it came out the year that Disneyland Paris, or Euro Disney at the time, opened. So, well, I thought I'm going to mention it so I can link my playlist up above for you, because we went there Easter this year, so 2022. So there we go. Right, I need some water, and I'm going to try and read a little bit more of Gobbolina the Witch's Cat. Things are not quite going to plan. As you can tell, I'm wearing glasses, which means I have quite a bad headache, but I have just finished Gobbolina the Witch's Cat. So, to catch you up, after my run I read a bit more, and then I started getting a really funny... It was like my own buffering symbol in my eye, which made life harder, and then I got this headache. So I have taken some tablets, and we are going to crack on, but I am definitely not going to get 10 books read, because this is quite a bad headache. But we're going to do our best. I at least want to get the next one read, which is Charlotte's Web. But we'll see what happens. But anyway, Gobbolina the Witch's Cat by Ursula Moray Williams. I enjoyed it to begin with, as I said earlier. A bit harsh, they essentially just abandoned the cat because he's not what they were expecting. But then it got rather predictable and rather repetitive, because essentially Gobbolina went to lots of different people to try and live with them forever, and then they found out he was a witch's cat, and they got rid of him. And that went through for about 15 chapters. And who knew there were so many jobs and roles for a cat to do. So it was interesting enough, but as I say, it got a bit too repetitive. For the books that we have, it's one of the mid-length ones. We're looking at 200 plus pages. It needed a bit more for me, so I think the Stuart Little is still my least favourite, but then it's this one, unfortunately. And as I say, it is a shame, because I did enjoy the beginning of it. It just then followed the same pattern for too long. So there we go, that is Gobbolina the Witch's Cat. I move on to one that I have actually read before, which is Charlotte's Web by E.B. White, who is the same author as Stuart Little. So I read this back when I was in year 6, I was about, 11, 10? Because we did this as our Leavers play, our end of year play. We essentially read the book, watched the film, did the play, and I was part of the Spider Gang. So I remember, well, at least the play that we did had a decent story, and you know, Wilbur and Charlotte and all of that. Hopefully it's a decent one. Does this come before or after Stuart Little? The best way to do it would be look at the back, won't it, and have E.B. White's. So Charlotte's Web is published 7 years after Stuart Little, so we'll see if we get a narrative with this one, and we'll give it a go. We have 250 pages basically with this one to go, and I will be happy if I can get this one finished as well today. Charlotte's Web, that comes before Sheep Pig or Babe, because because it's Dickens Smith, and surely he writes after E.B. White. The Sheep Pig, or Babe the Gallant Pig, first published in 1983. And when did I say this was? 50 something. 52. Because they said pig in this, and I just heard it in the voices of Babe, the film, because I've never actually read the book of that either. And then got curious. So, is it just this one and the Sheep Pig that have pigs as main characters? I guess there's also Animal Farm by George Orwell, but then I've never read that either. Let me know in the comments if there are any other main character pig books. As with yesterday, I have taken a little break to have some food and stuff with Pete. He's now actually left for the evening. He's gone to, I think it's Meltdown, for a Counter-Strike watch party or something. But I'm staying here. I'm gonna carry on with Charlotte's Web, which I'm about 50 pages into. As you've seen, I've got my candle lit. We're gonna put on an avocado face mask, and we're gonna settle in for the night with Charlotte's Web. Right, I'm all set. Let's go. We've met Charlotte now. Let's see where it goes from here. It's better than Stuart Little. I have to say, this book has by far the best illustrations. I really like them. This is a look. So there was one song in that play that I distinctly remember, and I only ever remember like 2 lines of it, which is like sleep, sleep, my love, deep in the dung of the dark or something. And she's just sung it. It's right there. So nice to know that it actually came from the book and not just some random song they made for it. Right, so we're ending where we started, as I have just finished Charlotte's Web, which is my favourite, with Flower Babies as a close second. But Charlotte's Web was just a brilliant story. It's no wonder this is so well known compared to some of the others in this box set. I really enjoyed it and read it pretty quickly compared to some of the others. But I say that's the end because it is now about 9:15 on the Sunday evening. It won't be too long until I head off to bed, so I've got work in the morning and there's no way I'm going to complete the challenge. So to give you the stats and things, there was 10 books to read with 2,382 pages in it. I didn't manage that. I managed 6 books. I read 1,089 pages in total, so that's 544.5 pages a day, which, if my 24-hour reading thing's anything to go by, is about average for me. That's probably my limit for the day. So, we read 6 books, 1,089 pages, so I was 102 pages short of being halfway through the page count, but I am over halfway in the books. The challenge itself I enjoyed because I have this box set, and to be quite honest, without doing this kind of thing, I would have put it off for a long time. Despite wanting to read these children's books, they're not ones that I probably would have picked up as a matter of like urgency kind of thing. They would have sat there for a long time probably. So it's been good in that respect, and I have enjoyed delving into these stories and like learning some more stuff about children's fiction and being more aware of it and things like that. So that has been good, and there are some really good ones in here. If we go lowest to highest of what I read, my least favourite was Stuart Little. This is by E.B. White. I wasn't a big fan of this because I felt it was too farcical, having a mouse as a child. That was never really explained why that was a thing in this world, and also there is no narrative to it really. It's a bunch of short stories, which is fine, but I was hoping and expecting a narrative. So then in fifth position is Gobbolina, the Witch's Cat. This had a really good start and I was really into it to begin with, the first sort of 40 pages or so, but then it got very repetitive and predictable as Gobbolina each time had to find a new home. Then they found out he was a witch's cat and then he was kicked out, and that went on for the entirety of the book. It then gets a little bit more tricky, but I think in fourth position is the first book I read, which was The Velveteen Rabbit by Margery Williams. This is the shortest of them all and was the easiest to read, just because of the sheer amount of pictures and the size of the text, as you would imagine. This was enjoyable. It feels like a precursor to Toy Story to me, but maybe that's just my Disney brain. But I probably would have preferred it to be a bit longer, just to flesh out that story of how toys become real a bit more. The one I was actually most looking forward to comes in at third, and that's The Borrowers by Mary Norton. I did enjoy the story. I don't know whether the fact that this was the third book I read on Saturday, so my brain was struggling a bit more, whether that was why it took me a long time to read. It is a fun story and I kind of want to rewatch the film because just the idea of borrowers is fun. In second place, and I thought it would win, but there we go, is Flower Babies by Anne Fine. We discussed this quite a bit, I think, but they're doing a science project with flower babies. The main child character, Simon Martin, thinks there's going to be some big event if they stick to it, so is really focused. But the reason I liked it so much was because of their teacher and how savage he was, and that made me laugh a lot. And then in first place is Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. So he got my last place and my first place, but there was, what did I say earlier, 7 years I think I said earlier, between the publication of the two, so obviously that sort of narrative part of storytelling either wasn't as fashionable when Stuart Little came out, or he developed it more for Charlotte's Web. But this is just such a wholesome and sweet and enjoyable story that if I ever have kids, I look forward to reading it to them, because I think it will stand the test of time. So there we go, they were the 6 books I read. Let's just do a bit of housekeeping. So I missed out on 4. These are obviously the chunkier ones. So we have another E.B. White, which is The Trumpet of the Swan. No idea, never heard of it. We then have Annie by Thomas Meehan, which I've seen the musical. I assume it follows on the same lines as that. The Family from One End Street by Eva Garnett, again a book I've never heard of. And the last one was The Voyages of Dr. Doolittle by Hugh Lofting, which I'm going to guess is a Dr. Doolittle book where he talks to the animals. And this is a chunky boy. When I get to these, I'm not sure, but we shall see. So there we go. Not quite the 10 Puffin Modern Classics managed to be read, but I gave it a good old go despite having, some adulting to do, getting a headache and all of that kind of stuff. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already and you fancy it, please go ahead and subscribe, because eventually I will talk about these ones in a book review somewhere. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!